I just found out about that last week myself. So.
That's SML?
Yep, that's Bull Run.
Is that Bull Run?
Yep.
Way up back?
Okay, Chris, I think we're live.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So my name's Chris Lindsay. If you want to go to the next slides, I'll start.
I do want to go to the next slide.
So how much did you have to pay to get put on that front of the catalog there?
They did it for free. That was nice. That was nice, yeah. Our new contact that John was speaking about, she messaged me a couple weeks ago asking for some just photos and stuff of using the cast nets, and that's kind of typically a lot of what I do is I send them photos of me on the boat and using the nets and just kind of for them to use for promotionary stuff. She sent me that picture and was like, hey, we'd like to use this for the cover of our 24 catalog, so it's kind of how.
They get all the pro staff guys together and have a cast off in the parking lot?
Yeah, I'm not real sure how I got chose for all that. My wife, she's a photographer on the boat, so she's taking all the pictures. So this is just what I've got to discuss. Anytime you guys have a question, feel free. I'm open for questions anytime. So if you'll go ahead and go to the next one, I'll start with the introduction. All right, so when and where did I start fishing? The picture in the bottom over here is me and the kids on a trout stream back where I live in just outside of Stanton, a little town called Churchville. So my granddad and my dad brought me up fishing and in the mountains. So every day off of school or anything, my granddad typically had me on a trout stream. So I grew up trout fishing, bass fishing. My family enjoys it now with them. Then I started fishing as I got older, wanted boats, and started doing, recreating on the lake. We did most of that at Lake Moomaw over in Bath County. So we trolled for trout. Not so much live bait fishing there, but more just spoons and spinners and stuff like that for trout. My family is here with me tonight. My wife and my two kids are there in the back. Wyatt, he fishes on our tournament team. He's our youth angler. So the next bullet there is family and fishing. So we fish a lot together as family. My wife loves to fish. We come down several times a year just to take time for us just to go out and fish, and we're not fishing with any of the friends or the buddies or anything, but we just fish as a family. So the top right pictures, them last December, we always come down. She's a school teacher, so she's out at Christmas. I get off work around Christmas too, so we always come down in late December for 3-4 days and just focus on fishing. I fished the Striper Mafia tournament as well. I started fishing that in 2018. That 18-19 season, my son Wyatt was able to win the Youth Angler of the Series. So how that works is the four biggest fish throughout, which one fish per tournament the youth can turn in. And his 4 fish throughout the 4 tournaments ended up being the number. So he won Youth Angler, and he's been with us fishing on the boat ever since. Striper fishing at Smith Mountain Lake, I started in 2016, and that just came from, we fished at Lake Moomaw for a long time, and fishing there for trout and stuff, but we had to camp. There's no houses or anything on Lake Moomaw, so we would take the campers over one night, go back home, go to work, come back the next time and bring the boats. And then it just got to be such a hassle going on a weekend and having to make 2 trips across the mountains. So I told my family, we had been to Smith Mountain several times just on long weekends and went out with guides and stuff back when I was in middle school and high school. But I brought it to my family's attention and was like, hey, why don't we go down and look for a place in Smith Mountain, and we can get rid of the campers and we can go down there and start striper fishing. So that was in 2016. We've got a place over in Lumpkins Marina. So we just come down on the weekends, and whenever we can get away to vacation, and we come down and fish and hang out at the lake. So live bait fishing. I've been live bait fishing since I started at Smith Mountain. I have not done much artificial at all other than casting off the front deck while we're pulling bait. I met some friends just through the old striper forum, and just got my feet wet. It was rough there for the first year or so, I guess. We didn't catch very many fish. I just put a light out on my dock, and my dock did not attract much bait. That was very much bigger than a couple inches. But that's what I got, and that's what I fished with. I didn't know to go to the backs of the creeks and look for gizzard, shad, and all that. So I fished with the alewives from my dock, and it was pretty spotty there for a while. It was a lot of trips with no fish. But as I started learning the lake and meeting people was the main thing for me, making connections with other anglers. Hunter Dalton was a big part. He messaged me one day and he was like, hey, there's some bait and there's some fish in Bull Run. You should check it out. So I went there and hooked up on a couple really nice fish that evening and caught some better bait. And I was like, hey, this is what we want to do. I'm a member of the Smith Mountain Striper Club. I've been a member for, I guess, as long as we've been here. I found out about it just online and through the forums and stuff, and was like, it's a great cause. I liked the 50% off the cast nets was a main draw for me, because I was not pro staff with Fitec at that point. So that was a big draw for me for the Striper Club. I'm about 2 hours and 20 minutes to my place, so I don't get here much on the Fridays for the meetings. As why this is my first meeting. Fitec, that was just a shot in the dark, really. I was going through cast nets. I would say 3 was. I think you needed a lot more than that, so the 50% discount was nice, but I reached out, and I've got the His Bounty, the /His Bounty up there. I've got a YouTube channel called His Bounty, so that's the logo on my hat. It's a fish hook, a deer antler, and the cross in the middle. So the His is Jesus. We're follow God and just being in His outdoors and creation, want to give back to that for everything He gave for us. So that's the His and His Bounty. And I started a YouTube channel when my son was old enough to start hunting and fishing and going along with me. So I film a lot of our adventures and things we do. So I was able to get his first deer and his first turkey, his first stripers, and film. So it was really just for a lot of memories, but it started, getting followers and stuff. And I reached out to Fitec and was, hey, how about a pro staff opportunity? And it didn't sound like they had a whole lot going at that time about pro staff. It was one of those things like, hey, if we do it in the future, I'll reach out. And it was probably 6 months later, they were like, hey, we'd like to bring you on as a pro staff. So it sounds great when people say pro staff, but it's not all that. It's promotional staff is what it is. So it's a lot of promoting Fitec to get a free cast net here and there. So all the guys that are 10,000 pro staff stickers, it's a lot to it for not a lot of stuff. So all my links here, John will share all that. It's the YouTube channel, my social media stuff, the cast nets. It's just Fitec's, and then Wind Rider's another one that just their apparel and stuff. We wear their sun shirts and waterproof gear and all that. So that's the other picture. That's the Striper Mafia tournaments. We've placed second twice. Is our highest. Can't get the can't break the first yet, but we fished every tournament. We fished Blackwater. I heard the talk about the fish on the Roanoke side. I do kind of agree with that, but we're Blackwater fishermen. We do venture to the Roanoke and fish some as well, but we typically fish a lot of Blackwater. So we've got second twice in both tournaments. All the fish came from the Blackwater, so we're there. We're wanting to win one for the dark side. It's kind of our thing. So. We're continuously in the top 10, though. We usually place in the top 10 about every tournament, and we finished as high as third in the overall results last year. Always live bait. Yep. All right, you can head to the next one. So why live bait? So I think for me, I like to catch big fish. So I'll take 3 really big fish over 10 fish all day long. There are times where I'd like to go out and catch 10. You got the kids on the boat, things like that, where that changes. But I got in parentheses, big bait equals big fish. So this is the size bait that I like to pull. I like to pull 8 to 12 inch baits. And typically when the rod goes off with a bait that size, it's going to be a 30+ inch fish. Planer boards, yep. Planer boards, typically we will fish downline. So I will catch some smaller bait for downlines, but we don't usually, I usually have just maybe 1 or 2 downlines out at any given time. You catch a lot of different fish with live bait. The pictures here, these are all trophy fish that my family's caught. My son has caught 2 largemouth bass over 8 pounds, and that one was 22.5 inches. He caught one the first tournament this year, Mafia tournament, that was 24 inches. So those big bass can eat a 10-inch gizzard shad, and when they do, it's going to be a large one for a lifetime. Like watching the big bass tournament stuff now, they're getting into 6 and 7 pounds, but Wyatt's caught 3 over 8. My daughter is up here in this top picture. She reeled that one in. It was right around 7-ish pounds. The striper's my wife, and then I've caught a 30, that's a 39-inch striper there on the far picture, and that was a Roanoke River fish. That one. The whole family is on the boat when we go. So typically I get here on a Friday evening in a brush, and it's usually getting close to dark. You got an hour to 2, so I jump on the boat, the wife and kids, and we head to find bait so we can fish Saturday morning. So it's a lot of fun. It's the dog, the wife, the kids, so it's a lot of chaos. Trying to throw a 10-foot net off the front of the boat, and the kids picking up bait out of the floor, but they really seem to enjoy it. You guys like it? Or am I? So typically, I'll bring them up and they'll sort through them. We'll put them in a purging bucket or something for a little bit, let them purge out, and then the kids will pick the biggest ones out and put them in the bait tank. The catching bait is fun, and then I have at times, because there are times that, is it always fun, Brooke? There are times where it can be hard to find. I think the gizzard shad are getting tougher, the bigger stuff. Finding it. We've done silly things, though, and ran to Clater Lake to catch bait, and Lake Anna to catch bait, and all kinds of different things to try to catch the biggest bait we can for tournament day. All right.
What time do you usually go out?
For a bait?
Yeah, bait and fishing.
It just depends. Depends on what time I can get here and what time of year. If it's summer, I'll focus lights and catch. I will catch smaller bait in the summer. Seems like that's what they target, bluebacks, and at nighttime on the lights. So I'll go out. Usually, a lot of times right before I usually fish daylight. Try to fish daylight every day that I fish that I'm here, and then the last couple hours of the day. Or if we're here and not doing much around the place, then we'll stay out all day at times. Fishing, I think the fishing at daylight's great. I think the fishing right before dark's really good too. I am usually pretty jealous every morning though when I wake up and the group meetings went off and people are catching 6 and 10 at night on artificial bait that never threw a cast net once, and their shoulders not falling off. But that is something that I want to learn to do, just because on these quick trips down, I think maximizing your time on the water would be a little bit better, and going out at night would be pretty cool. So in this one is choosing a cast net and just factors to consider. So the water temperature and bait depth, the target of the bait size, what size net can you throw comfortably, and what weight net, and tape or not tape. So when I say water temperature, the water temperature is going to dictate a lot what the bait's doing, where the bait's at. If it's super cold, dead of winter, the water's cold, the bait will be slow, but the bait will probably be 20, 30, 40 feet. If the water is that condition at that depth, a tape net is great. And I like a 1 pound tape net because it sinks really slow and it will stay open a lot longer. I throw a 1.5 pound tape net as well, which that's in this bucket here. That's the one I typically throw most because typically I'll find the bait, if you're not fishing when it's that really, really cold where the bait's a little more lethargic, the bait's quicker and it can outrun the really slow net. So I'll throw a 1.5 pound tape net to keep it open long enough for your 20 to 30 range. These up here, sonar picture there, that's about, I think that's 35 plus, and that's 1 inch net, and that was cold, bait was slow, and it worked great. I have been throwing lately though on springtime. I find like when we fish February, March, right where the water's starting to warm up a little bit and the bait's getting faster, it'll still be holding 25, 30 feet, but it'll be extremely fast. So you can throw a tape net and you can watch it with your live sonar, and as soon as it gets 5, 6, 8 feet, every piece of it's gone. So I've been throwing a 1 inch mesh non-tape net, and it sinks like a rock. It is straight to the bottom fast. And I'm actually picking up a little bit more bait that way in those types of conditions than throwing a tape net. Target bait size, that's a big too. So my go-to net would be I throw a 10-foot net, 5/8 mesh. So that is good for baits, I would say 6 inches up. Your littler bait can get through a 5/8 mesh. So that's my go-to. If it's not as big a deal and you're okay with 4-inch baits, 6-inch baits, and I think a 1/2 inch mesh is kind of your all-around net for catching pretty much all different sizes. When you're throwing on lights, there's a lot of really small bait. So if your mesh size is too big there, or not quite big enough, you'll gill a lot of bait, and then that's a ton of time and just a lot of wasted bait that it kills, and you're spending 20 minutes picking it out of the net so you can throw the next time. The weight net, so there's 1 pound nets, 1.5 pound nets, 3/4 pound nets. I throw 1.5 90% of the time I will throw the 1 pound with the tape net when it's really cold. But 1.5 sinks extremely fast. But that's just a preference and what you're comfortable throwing. So 1.5's heavy. It'll wear you out after a while. So that's really a preference thing and a depth and of water. If they're shallow, 8 foot 1 pound net, a 7 foot 1 pound net, catch them all day long.
That's 1 pound a foot?
Yep, 1 pound per foot. Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, 1 pound per foot. So, and then the tape or non-tape, it's just, to me, that's the time of year and where the bait's holding. So if the bait's below 20 feet, a lot of times I'll throw a tape net or my 1 inch mullet net.
I'm a rookie. So if I'm looking at my garment and I see bait fish, my transducer's in the back. Where are you throwing the net? From the front, back, or how's that?
I throw from the front, but I've got live sonar on the front now. When I started, I was in that same situation with a transducer on the back, standing on the front and wondering how am I ever going to catch this bait. That's 20 feet away. So I started backing up. Once you find it, go in reverse, and you've got to, and then throw it off the bow. Or if you've got room in the back of your boat, you can stand on in the back. And yeah. So you're trolling motor on the front? Okay. Yeah. So if you see it and can get over it, then just turn around and back up. And then when you back up, let the bow get to where the back was when you marked it, and throw. Front sonar was quickly, I got that quickly after, and it was just your regular sonar on the front, but that made a big difference too with it just being under my feet. So when I see it, it's there, but with that also, when you see it, it's also gone because it's at your feet. If it's not a huge pile of bait, you may be chasing it. The live sonar's been a game changer for that because you can just chase it down. I have active target on mine, but it's just a standalone active target on the front of my boat, and then I've got my just regular side scan sonar and down scan at my console.
How do the tape and non-tape nets behave differently?
Tape nets stay open for a long time, so you can watch it, especially with the live sonar and stuff. It's really cool because you can see like a non-tape net at 25 foot. When it hits the water like this, when it gets to 25 foot, you can watch it as it goes. It's going to be, you might be a 10-foot net, maybe 4 foot.
So does the non-tape drop slower?
Yes, way slower. The tape. It's got a tape that's probably almost as wide as my hand. I've got one in here. I'll pull out here in a little bit. The tape around the bottom is about as wide as your hand, so that catches the water and keeps the end of the net open. That picture up there is a tape net. The bottom is almost getting close to being down, and the top is coming, but it's still really wide open right there. And that bait there is from 25 to 35 feet deep. Yes. So if the bait's over probably 20 feet, 20 couple feet, I'll throw a tape net over that depth.
The untaped net will close at about 20 foot.
It's getting, it's starting. It's compacting a good bit. But that's the thing too, is the water temperature plays a huge part in that. And that's where I was talking about. I've found the 1 inch mesh non-tape work just as well as the tape nets, because when the bait's fast. So if the bait's really fast, like up in that picture, if it wasn't extremely cold, that bait would outran that net. The 1 inch net is a 1 inch mesh, so the mesh is huge. So it sinks really fast. So it doesn't have quite as much time to close. It gets to the bottom a lot quicker. So that's where I was finding in the earlier spring months when the bait's still holding at 20, 30 feet, I can throw a 1 inch mesh and do pretty well to where they would outrun. I can watch them on sonar outrunning the tape net and wondering, man, there's bait everywhere. Why am I not catching it? The picture in the middle, that's my son throwing his net. That's a 5-foot net, so he's been the last year or so practicing throwing. So I'm excited for him to be able to throw a bigger net, to give Dad a break every now and then. So the bucket, the red bucket, that's his new net. So that's a 7-foot 3/8 inch net. So he can target some lights maybe this summer and get him catching some bait.
I got a question. You ever throw on a bait that's suspended, say, 60 feet of water, and the ball is from 20 to 35, and you're just trying to, snatch it up without having to pin against the bottom?
Yep. So that's a good thing. And when the question came earlier about losing nets, the sonar on the front makes that nice too. Because even if it's not the live sonar, if you throw in your cone, you can still see your net. And even like a tree, I won't hesitate to throw if there's bait holding at 10, 15 feet, and there's a tree at 30, I'll throw on it to catch the bait and snatch that net up. I can watch it on my live sonar, and when it gets there, I'll yank it up to stay out of the top of that tree. We can hit the next one.
Okay.
So this is a table John had asked me a few questions and he made up. And these are the nets. These are the typical nets that I use, that I like. This isn't.
Chris, we're gonna have a quiz right after this.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
5 minutes.
Yeah. So a lot of this is kind of just the stuff I was talking about, but it's a breakdown of what I throw when. So a 10-foot net with a 5/8 mesh, 1.5 pounds per foot, 30-foot hand line. That's my bigger bait net, 6 inches and up. Bait's holding 0 to 18 feet, and that's my go-to size because I want to catch the bigger bait. An 8 to 10 foot radius net, 1/2-inch mesh, 1 to 1.5 pounds, 30-foot hand line, medium bait, 4 to 7 inches. Bait's holding same 0 to 18. If thicker and or slower in cold water, that would be my go-to I would go with that net if I only had to have one. If they said, hey, you can only take one net on the boat for the rest of the year, that size would be, I would pick a 1 pound or a 1.5 pound, 10-foot, 1/2-inch mesh, because that way I can catch pretty much all the bait range and still be able to catch the smaller bait if I can't find big bait. The next one here is an 8 to 10 foot radius 3/8 mesh. So that was the net in the red bucket. That's a 7-foot one, but I got it in 7-foot. Hopefully, White can handle that. That's a great net for alewives, bluebacks, thread fins. A little bit smaller bait, skinnier bait. Good to use around lights and where bait's really concentrated. So, like I was saying, like in the summer, if we come down, if we fish at all, I'll go out 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before daylight and hit a few lights. And a 3/8 is a great size, not gill so many in it. The next two are the tape nets that we were talking about a little bit there. 10-foot, 5/8, 1.5 pound. They got 50-foot hand lines, so you can get really deep. Winter bait is pretty much when we use those. If the tape net's the only one you got on the boat and the bait's in the back of a creek, a tape net will catch them just as well. It's not going to matter if it's shallow a whole lot. Unless it's 10 foot, it could catch and be a little bit slower. And then the bottom one is the 1-inch mesh that I started throwing here recently.
Done this presentation about 3 years ago before I bought the 6 nets that I have.
Yeah, well,
Because what he's saying right there, I mean, I throw on my light most of the time, and I get big baits sometimes, but mostly it's 4 to 7 inch, 8 inch bait. And that 3/8 inch, 8-foot net, non-tape,
Yep.
it works.
Plenty.
And you don't get the gills,
Yep.
you don't get all these things stuck in. So I've learned that, but just by trial. and error.
Right.
So that's
Yeah. So for when we tournament fish, if I'm here with family, we'll run out, catch bait. I want to get 20 baits as quick as I can get them so we can get on the water and fish. On a tournament weekend, I always take off the Friday before, and pretty much the Friday before, we always like to say we would like to pre-fish. That never happens. We just pre-bait. So it's all day long catching bait. And it's when you say it's fun, when you're trying to find big bait and then you hit a pod that's everything comes up that's 10 to 12 inches, like to me it's the jackpot. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's worth it. It all ended up worth it. But there are days too to where I'm like, I'm not even fishing the tournament tomorrow. This is terrible. And then at the end of the day, you'll find it and everything will be okay. But it's a lot. It can be a lot, and none of these are set in stone. It's to what you're comfortable with and to your ability. I can throw a 10-foot net that's a pound and a half all day long. Some people may be able to throw an 8-foot net that's a pound, just to whatever suits you. So none of this is my preference only, and it's not set to anybody but me.
Have you found when you're teaching people the cast net, that the technique has more to do with it? Once they get used to it, they can throw a much heavier, bigger net.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So,
Yep.
so would you say that most people should be able to handle a 10 foot? I mean, unless you got, health issues.
Right.
But, most people should be able to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different methods. I have not thrown a lot of different ways. I throw a no mouth. It'll be on a slide. I don't put anything in my mouth. I don't put any net over my shoulder. I don't like the wet, the net dripping and all over me. So I keep it in one hand and throw from my hip. That's probably the harder way to do it. But that's how I do it, and that's how I like it. I can handle it that way. But I've seen Kenny Short throw a 12-foot like it was nothing. He balls it up a few times and over his net and does a spin, and the thing lays wide open as big as this room, and you're just like, how does he do that? So there's different ways. Definitely don't give up. There's a ton of different techniques. YouTube is your best friend when it comes to that. When I started in 2016, I ran down to my dock. I had an 8-foot, half-inch mesh net. I ran down to my dock. The first night I turned the light on, there was all this beautiful bait there. I was like, this can't be that tough, right? So I pick it up. I grab one end. I didn't do anything. I just picked it straight up, grabbed the end, and I'm like, all right, when I throw this end around, she's going to open wide open. And I threw a big, looked like a big eye. Right in the middle of the bait, it was gone, and I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot more to this. So I was at my dock at 1:30 in the morning watching YouTube videos because I wanted to go fishing and take my dad and my brother-in-law out the next day and show them that we could catch a striped bass at Smith Mountain Lake. So there's a ton of different resources and stuff. So definitely check out all the different ways, because the way I do it, it's nice, it's quick. I can reload, like if we hit some bait and it's still there, I can reload fast and get it back out. So that's why I like it. But tournament days when we're throwing the cast net a lot, it wears you out.
Teach people how to throw the net, or take turns.
We can
Practice it, I think that'd be great for.
we could possibly work on something like that in the future. Definitely. Yeah.
I'd send my son off the end of my long diving board, and I'd step off the side of the back of the boat, and we would just drop it. That was before I heard
All right. Okay. All right, so this is my preferred method. There's a couple links here you can click once he sends this out, but this that was a little short clip of me throwing. And then this is YouTube to the one I watched. It's Sean McNew. Shadman, I think is what he is on the pages. He's Big Fish Outfitters in Tennessee. So that's kind of how I got it. One thing I will say is you can see in all mine, this hand here, I hold the net in this hand almost until it's down. I feel like the method that I throw, when I hold this hand here, it helps it stretch and stay out a lot longer. If I let that hand go, I have gotten out of where swinging it, I can throw it and throw it to the table. But if you're right on the bait, if you can get it out, and then even if you can get both hands back here on the back of it and pull, makes it open up really nice. And this is just question time.
Can you show us how you load your net?
Yeah. Yep.
The thing about YouTube videos, there are so many methods you can watch.
Yeah.
And some of them, a lot of them are just people bragging, hey, instead of teaching you anything, they're just like, yeah, I do it.
The first ones I watched, the one I had on there, the guy was left-handed. And I was like, how do you do this right-handed? It took me forever to figure out, or to realize, like, this guy's left-handed. I need to load it the other way. Don't worry about all that hand line. But this is one of the tape nets here. This is a 5/8. It's a 10-foot net, so 20 foot, 10-foot radius.
So you're right-handed.
I am. Yep. So I'm right-handed, so I load everything on the right side. So I catch it just under the horn on my first, and then I'll come to my waist. I like to go below my waist, and then I'm bringing this hand under, and all this is going to stay on top. So my second grab below my waist, and the reason I like to grab it below my waist is when I pick it up, I don't have so much hanging. I found the waist was what everyone said when I started, but I find that at the waist, it's hard to get all this going when it's so long. So I'll grab it down a little bit closer to the bottom on that second grab. And then from there, so you're just pulling it out and getting your next handful. I'll go half or maybe even a little better than half. And then this hand has got to be, and then you're loading all that on top of this. And then this thumb grabs it. So from here, your long side is what you're putting in your left hand, and this is what you're throwing. So that's where it can wear you out in the day and get the net that you're comfortable throwing because all the weight's on the right side. And then I found I can throw farther if I get some swing into it. So if you bring it back here and then get it going, but you can also it's quick. It's a pretty quick load as well. So if I've just thrown, pulled up, I'm here. If I missed it, I'm back on it, and I mean just a few seconds, you're loaded and ready to roll again.
So you said you were hanging on to the net at one point. You're hanging on to the left hand, right?
Yep.
Just a little bit. Just
Yep.
a second.
So once you throw it, and two, this hand is kind of, it's just like you're reaching out to shake a hand. It's not, you don't want to come up over like this. Stay low. Yeah. and just,
Now, if you're throwing a short, a smaller net, are you grabbing closer to the horn or grab?
so this is one of the short ones. This is the signature net Fitec. It's a newer net. You can feel the difference in it as well, just quality wise. This net, I don't know, I always put my net like, this net's brand new. It's pretty stiff. I'll put it in this bucket full of water and put a little bit of fabric softener in it to soften it up the first time. And it makes it nice too after you've thrown it a lot to redo it and get the smell out of it. And they do smell nice. But this net here feels like it's already had that. So it's a different net. The horns are different in the Signature series. It's wide open horn, so it closes really quick once you snatch it. And a thing I like too is when I throw on bait, I like to drift past and then pull my net up at an angle to close it quicker. Once it hits the bottom, I'll pull it a couple tight jerks, because I just feel like if you're pulling it straight up, a lot of times that first pull is going to make those weights bounce off the bottom, and some bait can escape. So I like to bring it from the side, because that way I feel like I'm dragging the weights as they're closing. They're staying on the bottom. So this is a 7-foot net with the thing still on the bottom. But yeah, so on a 7-foot, I'm still doing the exact same thing. I'm going to grab it just below the horn and grab it. It's a lot lighter. This is a 1.2 pounds. So this is called a shallow water net in the Signature series. The deep water net in this series is 1.6 pounds per foot. So still the same load regardless.
I can look prices on this.
Yeah, I'm doing just the exact same thing I did on that one. So just below the horn, so you're looking a foot or so, because if this gets too far, too long, then this can get caught too around when you spin it, and then it'll.
Now, it's hard to, and then I'm assuming you get all the lines back all the way down to the collar, right? Before you do your load.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let that hang out like that.
That doesn't bother me too much, a little bit. But a lot of times when you bring it in the boat, if it's like this, I'll drop it back over the side and get it all back out. Yeah. Yep. I have noticed with these though, with this wide open horn, these don't get tangled near as much with this horn compared to the one. These have they're all in their own little quadrant. And then if they get tangled around each other, that's where you're trying to get it.
I've noticed, I bought an 8-foot net, I haven't thrown it yet, but it comes in that white bucket there. But I've noticed a lot of people use a bucket like that, a larger bucket.
It's hard to get this net back in this bucket. Yeah. I mean, you can. I don't keep mine in the boat. I keep mine in one of my hatches. One of the hatches, side hatches in mine, the longer ones. That way I can just drop them in quick and don't have to worry about stacking them in this bucket.
So I know we're getting a discount through the club net, but what's the average price on the 10-foot net, say, for example?
I think they're $100 some with the discount. I think they're two and some change on the site, and then the 50% discount. It gets a little. Yeah, so
The Signature series have tape on it too?
I believe so. Yeah, I think they do have the tape as well. And the Signature series, this too, it comes with a. They have a one-time replacement as well. I don't know how this will work through the club, but if you break the net, lose the net, or if you bust the net, I guess, you send pictures of it in and they'll give you another net at 50% off as well as a replacement on these.
Discounted price?
That's what I don't know. That's
Consult our attorneys.
I don't know, but they should, right?
Typically, we just when we get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so another thing too, a lot of times if the weights get over the braille lines and stuff, a quick way to get it all done is here, and then swing them around your leg. So it's all going one side. You're working all this one side until it gets all the way back around. If you get any tangles. And I'll show you some other methods, but I don't throw any other way.
That's the way the.
That's all I got.
Both stones is an iron.
Yeah.
Works well.
You know, that whole putting the bait in your mouth,
Of me throwing? Not like a tutorial, but I'll make one. That's pretty easily to do. I've got a lot of YouTube videos of me throwing, like you can see it. I'm not breaking it down exactly what I'm doing, but I've got our fishing videos where I'm catching bait in the beginning of the videos where you can see it. But yeah, I'll do that. I'll put one together. Yeah.
On the shad, when you live bait, what size hook, and then where do you put it, right there in the mouth? How do you put your?
I'll put it I always put mine through the nose, through both nostrils.
Is that how you do it?
That's how I do. Yeah. And the only reason I do it that way is I feel coming through the mouth opens the mouth, and pulling, depending on the speed I'm pulling, you're drowning them. Because their mouth is open the whole time that way.
Big bait, you're hooking them right through the nose.
Yeah. I do not use circle hooks. I use J hooks. Just my preference. My buddies, a lot of my buddies use circle hooks. I like to set the hook myself. So when the planer board goes under, I like to jerk and know that I'm setting the hook through his lip instead of trusting that thing to turn the way it's supposed to turn perfect. Yes.
I had a shoulder replacement a couple years ago, and I don't have a whole lot of strength in my right arm anymore. I see these disc things, they put on these nets, do they work?
I'm not sure.
I tried one, but it wasn't worth the damn.
Yeah, Fitec has one called Easy Cast or Easy Throw. I'm not sure. They claim it does. I've never thrown one of them.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the biggest striper you've got?
Me personally, the 39. Yep. Hopefully, we'll get some trips to Tennessee though coming, and get into something a little bigger, or the Bay.
Where is it?
All the lake down there, Boone and Cherokee, Clinch River, Watts Bar. I've been to Watts Bar. Smith, the Mafia tournament, had a kickoff tournament one year that didn't count for points, but it was in Tennessee at Watts Bar, and we fished it. We caught some pretty nice fish, but it was one of those never been there, didn't know the water that great, and didn't find the fish till end of the tournament kind of deal. So, but it was cool. The Clinch River there was like fishing, like your upper Blackwater, even like above Ponderosa, Blackwater in areas, up in the Roanoke, around Explorer Park, stuff like that.
All right, anything else? Chris, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll leave those out if anybody wants to see. Take a look at them.